Hey, what's up? Zach here, and today I've got a double performance review of the K Swiss Hypercourt Express 2 as well as K Swiss Hypercourt Supreme. And also a huge thanks to Tennis Point USA for sending me these shoes and sponsoring these tennis shoe videos. Now obviously they have no editorial control over these videos, and they're not telling what to say, and of course all opinions are still my own, because like any good retailer would know, it's better to get the right shoe versus having to deal with a ton of returns. Now what I find interesting about both these shoes, and I actually put this on one of my YouTube stories the other day, is that when I was talking to some of the retail people I know, these are the two best-selling shoes in a lot of tennis retail shops. And honestly, I have really never put these on my feet. I was super interested to find out like why these sell so well versus some other flagship models of some other shoes. Let's get into them. Now right off the bat in the uppers, the Express 2 and the Supreme, I mean just looking at the shoes from their profile and just up and down, they look like very similar shoes, and they are. However, there are a few subtle differences between them, most of them actually coming in the uppers. But just to, I guess, immediately contradict myself, the one thing that is the same in both shoes is the Dura wrap flex around the shoe. Now this is very similar to the A6 Gel Resolution 8 or even the A6 Court FF2. It's an entire bed of polyurethane coating the entire upper, which I love because in the K Swiss models, both the Express and the Supreme, it is a little bit more forgiving than the Court FF2 or Gel Resolution 8. It breaks in a lot faster. They didn't have any break-in, bending, or snapping. But similarly to the Court FF2 and the Gel Resolution 8, if you look at the upper durability test, the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, I mean the Dremel does not bite through that Dura wrap, so it is really good for toe dragging and sliding. But getting away from the Duraguard and the uppers, the differences in the Supreme and the Express really come down into the ankle collar and tongue and how it locks your foot into the shoe. On the Hypercourt Supreme, you get a little bit more of a low profile but more dense tongue. On the Hypercourt Express 2, the tongue is actually, at least feels a little bit thicker to me. However, it's just made of a little bit more of a breezy kind of open material. The next thing that's different is around the ankle collar. On the Hypercourt Supreme, you're actually getting a hybrid slipper tongue, which means you actually get a double wrap around the ankle collar and heel counter here. And what's really nice is that inner booty liner is molded, so it really locks your ankle in. However, the outside has a second wrap around it, which keeps it really secure. So with the Supreme, you're getting more of a Supreme heel lock in the shoe and just a little bit more of a rugged and durable lockdown kind of in your ankle in general. And before I move on to the midsole, I just want to make mention of something I've only ever seen in K Swiss shoes, and that is they come out of the factory with bubble shoelaces. What that does is it increases the security of the lockdown, which is phenomenal. It's such a nice little addition to these shoes that really make for a better lockdown and just a little bit more of a premium upgrade that I have not seen on any other brand. Now getting into the midsole teardown, I only tore one of these open because they're the exact same midsole in both shoes. If you look at the weights, difference in weight I actually think comes in the tongue and the bunting underneath of that. Now both shoes midsoles are an entire bed of K Swiss Surgilite, which it looks like there's just not much going on, it's just one big bed of foam. However, Surgilite is actually pretty interesting because it's a much lighter midsole foam blend, and I think that's why both these shoes can stay a little bit lighter than some of their competitors, even though they are pretty beefed up shoes. Now the one thing that I don't love about the midsole of the K Swiss is that the shank is only on the bottom and the heel stack is just a little bit lower. Now the nice thing is the stack in the forefoot is actually a little bit higher, so the shoe definitely gives a little bit more resilience on the balls of your foot, which is nice because tennis is played on the balls of your foot. However, if you're looking for a shoe with a pretty darn light midsole, something you can kind of get around a lot easier, the Surgilite midsole is actually really nice. The only problem with that is because there is no shank on the top, you will start to bottom if you really play heavy on your heels, or if you're always up on the balls of your foot. This shoe is kind of meant for more kind of fluid footwork, and I think if you use kind of all parts of your foot, kind of a more all-court game, then that foam is going to last a lot longer. However, in these types of shoes, I probably would throw an orthotic in there just to kind of shield that foam a little bit more and make them last a little longer. However, with that lightweight, if you look at the serve jump height test, I mean, I got 34 centimeters of jump height in these with really no stiff shank, no cantilever bending, and that just shows you that midsole foam is pretty lively and pretty bouncy, but also really light, so it's easy to get off the ground. And getting into the outsole tread, surprising nobody, the Supreme and the Express 2 are exactly the same. They're just a multi-density herringbone, which is actually good for multiple surfaces. What I really like about the outsole tread though of both of these shoes is they do ride up really high on the medial or insides. These are really good for toe draggers or sliders because it just meets that polyurethane upper right here. So you're just kind of protected anywhere you want to go. The next thing that I think is just phenomenal in these shoes, it has a really grippy lateral flange made entirely of outsole rubber. What that does is it actually really grips into the court really well. And why I like that is it saves weight in the shoe, it saves space in the shoe, it makes the shoe more nimble. However, you're getting all the benefits of a super fat wide lateral flange, like say on something like the Adidas Sole Court Boost. And that's why I really like these shoes for really aggressive movement, really kind of dragging and sliding type hardcourt movement, just because the treads on these are like monster trucks. And just kind of piggybacking off that tread profile, if you look at the Shuttle Test, they came in at 14.96 seconds and 14.91 seconds on the Supreme, so the 9.6 was on the Express 2. Now, I think the only reason why my times were a little bit slower on those is because the tread is kind of rolled rubber here on the inside. There's really no hard break point on the inside of the shoe, and so they don't grip as really aggressively as some other shoes when you're pushing off medially. However, they grip incredibly well when you're pushing off from the lateral side. So in terms of footwork in these are more meant for, like I said, more fluid footwork going through the court, and they're really great for sliders, which was something I kind of found really interesting. I started kind of getting better at it the second Shuttle Test that I did with them. As you can see, the first one was a little bit slower. The second one I actually got up to speed a little bit more, just because I kind of learned how the shoe wanted to be used. And if you look at the outsole durability test, the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, really not even a millimeter of damage on this outsole rubber. Now the durometer on these is 17.3, which is just like off the charts. So these are really hard rubber type shoes, and they're really good to abrasion. Now getting into the fit, both of these shoes come in a 2E width version. So they're gonna fit a narrow, medium, or wide width foot, typically in just your true size. If you're a 2E, then go to the 2E. However, I actually played in the regular version of both of these shoes in my standard size, and I really had no problems with break-in. My left foot may have been a little bit tight for maybe 5 minutes. However, I really didn't notice any problems in them. And you know, when it came to playability, I honestly thought that the Supreme was the better shoe, just because the lockdown was a little bit better. I felt a little bit more confident moving in these, and I could just kind of pivot laterally a little bit better and kind of get up off the ground a little bit easier. I thought digging for balls was a little bit easier, and I just felt a little more confident with my first step, especially trying to charge to the net, either on a drop shot or serving and balling or something. I just felt that little extra bit of molding in the heel counter and that little bit better lockdown really did suit me well. However, I think the reason why both of these shoes are such good sellers comes from the midsole foam and just how light it is. These shoes are incredibly easy to play in, really no matter what kind of player you are. If you're a serve and volleyer, baseliner, retriever, kind of all court player, a little bit more, someone who has a little more flourish to their game. If you're heavier or a lighter player, you're kind of going to be comfortable in these. I actually had my dad play in these as well, and he said the same thing. He said they're just comfortable shoes to play in. They really have no break-in, and they're just kind of easy to get around. But of course, love to hear your thoughts on the Supreme and the Express 2. If you've had experience, kind of which one you like better. And just the K Swiss line in general, are you going for these versus some other shoe companies? Especially right now where stock is so low, but K Swiss does seem to be able to find a way to keep shoes in stock. So these are some of the shoes that are actually available right now. So I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And speaking of the K Swiss Ultra Shot 3, if you want to see that shoe go head to head against the all new Adidas Barricade, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. We'll see you in the next video.